It looks like we are live. It works.
Awesome. We're on. Hello, everybody. Welcome to New Earth Rising. I am Michele Ambergey, the Awakener, and we're so happy that you're here. We're talking about super fun stuff. We have Sharon Kumara, and we have beautiful Galactic Ashley here with us. We're talking about Dark Nights of the Soul, kind of NDEs. We've got some things that we're talking about here. And so we're so happy you're here. This is part 2. You can find part 1 on the New Earth Rising channel. And also don't forget to subscribe and to hit that little bell on there so you get notified when we have stuff coming out, because we've got so much planned for you all. So we're so happy you're here, whether you're watching live or otherwise. We just give you a great big huge cosmic hug, and we want to get started by just having everybody say hello, and then Sharon is going to give us some information about what the heck it is we're actually talking about. So Sharon, would you introduce yourself? Unmute. Uh-oh.
There we go. I'm trying to
There
figure
you
out
go.
which mute I am unmuting. All right. So that was my
Sharon's driving the
feedback.
plane.
I know, and that's scary. So somebody, I hear feedback. Is that from me or you, Michele?
I don't know. Are you, when I'm talking, are you getting feedback?
Yeah, and I muted my YouTube. Sorry, guys, we're still trying to figure this out.
There shouldn't be, because I'm doing what I
have
always
another
do.
one open. Yeah, I have another. No, I don't. Okay, I might have another one open.
It's always fun when it's praying all over the place.
I did. I had another one open.
All right. Technology. It's so much fun.
Okay. Oh yeah, now we're good. Now it's not echoing in my head. So yes, hi everyone, we are back and thank you for being here again. We are going to talk about Quickenings, Kundalini Awakenings, and Dark Nights of the Soul. And I wanted to share some information on what that might entail, because I don't know if we talked too much about it. We were so kind of flustered last time with all the technology and everything that was going awry that we just kind of dove into it. So let me pull up my document here, and this might help. Our goal here is to help people that might be experiencing any of these things, to any of these processes, to move through as quickly as possible and understand what's going on, because that's the whole problem, I think, with a lot of us, is we don't really understand what's going on sometimes when we go through these. Okay, here we go. So a quickening, and this is just some perspectives. The spiritual quickening is an inflow of divine vitality into the body, which follows the affirmation of truth. To quicken is to make alive. The quickening is a profound energetic healing that assists you in letting go of the old concepts and belief systems that no longer serve you, and replaces them with information that is whole, healthy, divine, and complete. And I'll put links down in the details of where I found some of this information. Okay, Kundalini Awakening. Put simply, a Kundalini Awakening is a form of energetic awakening that causes us to transform on the mental, emotional, and spiritual levels. Kundalini itself is a Sanskrit word that means she who is coiled. It refers to primordial life force energy contained at the base of the spine that is often depicted as a snake. This serpentine energy, once awoken, travels up the various energy centers or chakras of the body and into your crown chakra, where higher consciousness is triggered. The result of this higher awareness is a greater understanding of one's soul or true nature, life purpose, and the nature of reality itself. So some intense, unbalanced Kundalini awakening symptoms can be Your experience is intense. Involuntary shaking of the body can be alarming. Your nervous system becomes hypersensitive to external stressors such as bright lights, TV violence, loud noises, and shuts down or craves total. And you can shut down or crave total solitude. You struggle to sleep properly. You experience sudden and shocking moments of ego death. You have visual disturbances that can feel alarming, and you experience intense heat, vibrations, or electricity surge through your body. It feels like you're having a bad drug trip while sober. Yeah. You struggle to distinguish what is real from imagined, and feel like you're going crazy. Okay. So a balanced Kundalini awakening symptoms are: you feel a spiritual connection with the divine that transcends the ego. You are bathed in bliss and boundless love. You experience periods of oneness where compassion for humanity increases. You tap into extrasensory abilities and or develop extraordinary gifts. Pleasurable sensations pulsate throughout your body. You're inspired to make big life-altering decisions and authentic changes in your life. Synchronicities increases tremendously. You have profound insights into your behavior and past experiences, past life experiences as well. Your empathic abilities strengthen, and you can feel everything at a profound level. You begin to understand the nature of the mind and how it influences reality, and you keep receiving big cosmic downloads of information, soul communication. Dark night of the soul. Okay, the term dark night is made popular in the 16th century by Saint John of the Cross, which is what Ashley talked about last time, a Spanish monk, in one of his poems, Noche Oscura, which means dark night in Spanish. The poem describes his spiritual journey and the hardships he faced in his union with God. The dark night of the soul signifies the beginning of a shift in perspective from our ego to our soul. We realize that the ego's perspective no longer works for us anymore, but we are not yet fully connected with our soul. So we are sort of stuck in between these two states, and we have no clear sense of identity or a stable home to reside in. According to Eckhart Tolle, the dark night of the soul is a term used to describe a collapse or perceived meaning in life. What dies in essence is the egoic sense of self. In essence, a dark night of the soul is ego death. As such, there's a lot of darkness or unknown about who you are and who you are becoming. This can be scary and an excruciating process. So some dark night of the soul symptoms are, okay, so what it says is these are some of the shared symptoms that one can find in both the dark night of the soul and clinical depression. Everything seems to be breaking down. You feel confused, lost, meaningless, empty, and lonely. You don't feel satisfied or joy in the things that normally make you happy. Life has no meaning or purpose, and you have an existential crisis. You don't feel like doing anything. Random emotions might surface. You might cry uncontrollably or without any reason. You experience anxiety and panic attacks. Past life memories and childhood events might surface. The main difference between a spiritual depression or a dark night and a psychological depression is there is no spiritual evolution or component in the clinical depression. This means that when you recover from psychological depression, you might have a healthier mind, but you are still identified with your mind ego. You still think that you are your thoughts. So I hope that helps some.
It does. I know it clarifies for me, and I've experienced all of them. So that was awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then we want to introduce the amazing, the fantastic Galactic Ashley. Welcome. Thank you for coming back again. Round two.
Right. There was that old video game, I think, that I just remember hearing in the background all the time. What was it? I don't know. Doesn't matter. There's like a Mortal Kombat or something. I don't know. It's like some old game in the back corner.
Round two.
Yeah, well, it was like a fighting game, and it was in the pizza place Doesn't matter.
Oh,
It was a long
okay.
time ago. Nobody played it, but I just remember hearing that in the back because it would be like round 2, fight, and there'd be like a referee. Doesn't matter. So with that, I am Galactic Ashley, and I channel divine guidance for star seeds, connecting them to their star families and galactic lineages. I use light language frequencies and work with your cosmic connections to facilitate high frequency healing transmissions and encoded activations. I do 10-week courses that I called Galactic Guided Intensives, and I have 3 this year. The next one's coming up in March. But before that, I was guided to do these one-on-one quantum integration programs. So it is, they're kind of like coaching sessions, and you get me for 6 weeks, as much as you want or as little as you want. And then we meet in person for an hour each week, and then there's a star session beforehand. So I'm really excited. Signups for that will be starting, I think, next week. So, and then that will officially start at the end of February. So I'm really excited. Nice. The dragons came in and they were like, do this. And I said, awesome. We're just in this really amazing time right now where everything is kind of very intense, but also very, very exciting.
Yes, totally. Thank you, Ashley, and thank you for coming back with us and chatting about our topic today. And we welcome the people that are here. If you have any questions or you want to share anything on your own, to put that in the chat, and we will field all questions that come through and answer to the best of our ability. Right? And I notice in these chats that a lot of time the people that are watching they're chatting among themselves and answering people's questions and connecting that way too, which is really amazing. Yeah. So we covered a little bit of what we have been experiencing with Quickenings, Dark Night of the Soul, and Kundalini Awakenings. I don't think we covered much about Kundalini energy and surges and things like that. Does anyone want to cover that? Talk about that and their experiences with the Kundalini?
I had a non-Kundalini experience.
The non-Kundalini?
Well, it was a little while ago. I just remember I was like I had a huge heart expansion basically the night before, and I was awake, and beings came into my house, and we were basically putting I call them implants because I'm not afraid of implants. And I'm also involved in all of the implants that I have, and they are there to support me. So I don't have random implants, and I'm just always involved in it and very aware. And
can you, sorry to interrupt you, Ashley, but can you describe what your perspective is on implants and what type of implants you're talking about?
So there are non-beneficial implants, and I remove them sometimes from people. And I'm usually very careful when I do that because sometimes some implants can be all the way in the physical. I have not personally seen those. A lot of times implants are placed like in the plasma body, even though, or like the light body, but we'll just use plasma body for a general term. For me, implants are supportive in that they help me be able to, they help the physical body is what they're doing for me mostly. And my galactic family and the dragons have talked about them as when they are done and I don't need them anymore, they basically dissolve. So it's like getting stitches at the doctor, like the dissolving kind that are in your body, and they just dissolve and they're gone. Some implants are placed in the ones that I mostly or most commonly see are ones that are placed in someone. So when they reach a certain light accretion level, they're set to go off. So the beings that implanted them are aware. So sometimes implants are very intelligent where when I remove them, and it's not literally me, there's beings that come in, I'm a part of it, right? So we're usually guided to remove the implant, but something is done to it so that the person is not harmed, so that my energy signature is not on the implant, and so that the beings that installed the implant, it doesn't go off and they're not aware of it either, if that makes sense. It sounds like undoing a bomb without leaving fingerprints, and there's no video cameras, kind of thing. And then it's taken away.
Right.
And then that person can continue to go through.
Okay. So is this similar to implants? I know we're getting a little off topic, but I want to understand what you're talking about. To like extraterrestrial, like little tiny implants that they find or they take x-rays of, and there's wires in them and stuff like that, where they're actually physical?
I haven't seen any physical ones, but I do know hybrid. We're really gonna go. We're off-roading, people.
This is fun. Let's go.
I know people that identify as being a hybrid, right? So that would be part galactic or part ET, whatever word you want to use, and part human. I believe we all have angelic DNA. That's why we're here. We're supposed to remember that, move it along. Not to ascend to get away from anything, but to move it through the human body to remember that we are all angelic. So when DNA gets messed with, it's all been messed with.
Yeah. So gotcha.
Okay. So I have personally not seen technology in a person, but I have heard lots of stories where hybrids tell me like maybe they were throwing up and like literally technology was coming out of them. So it's if you have a lived experience and that is your truth, who the hell am I to say that's not true? It doesn't work like that. Not I. So the ones that I see a lot of times are usually in people that have military backgrounds, and they're usually, I'm just going to say, the reptilian consciousness, which would be the quote unquote opposite of Christ consciousness, would be involved in installing that.
I see.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. So all of these beings came in. There's all the stuff that was going on, and it was like they upgraded something in my back. I would term it as the rod and the staff, right? Which is basically masculine and feminine energy lines in my body. And I was just like, a little to the left, a little to the right. And it was like, okay. So it's like both in my body and outside of my body, which is a normal thing for me. So after that, basically the next day I was in the shower, and all this energy was like coming up, and I was like, what is this? What is this? And nobody was actually yelling at me, right? But the beings, everybody gets very intense, right? And it feels like they're really close. And they were basically like, I said, is this Kundalini? And they were like, no. I was like, okay. And they were like, let go, because I was like resisting, right? Because I just like, you tell me something. And they were like, it's Shakti, it's Shakti, it's Shakti. And so basically it was Shakti rising. And I know they call it Kundalini Shakti, but from what I understand, tantric non-dualism, Shakti rises, goes into the cosmos, connects with Shiva. And what I experienced was cosmic oneness, which it was different than my last experience of oneness, of all oneness. So, but both of these have been, for me, very much attached to a massive heart opening. But I also know, and I've known for a long time, that I'm here for something with the heart. I know that my heart is a stargate. The beings come through me, they don't come to me. And because of that, when I'm asked to do things that involve unconditional love, the answer is always yes, because this is what I'm designed for. So part of both of these things, but especially the dark night of the soul, is basically I literally said, bring me to my knees, remove everything in my life that is interfering with me, dissolve everything in me and in my life, internal, outternal. That's funny. That is it. That's the paradox. That's the new word. Outternal.
Outternal. I love it. Yeah.
And nocturnal, internal. Okay. So dissolve everything in my life that is inside of me and outside of me that is preventing me from divine union and experiencing divine intimacy, because I want to emanate unconditional love. And so that's what happened. And so, but see, when I look back, it's all been leading up to this. So all of this is just very orchestrated and designed. So I find that if you can be like, oh, universe, like, thank you for this flat tire today. This is exactly what I needed. Like, to try and look at things and really understanding that if you're in a dark night, you're designing it yourself in many ways.
Yeah.
A lot of times in the way that you need it, even if it feels sudden because it was triggered by an external circumstance. It was like I designed it to have a mild external trigger, right? But it's like I brought the trigger in so that there would be a trigger for some reason, right? But it's like very, very, very designed. So I feel like if you allow yourself to see that and not judge it, it can make things a lot easier. So anyways, that was my Kundalini experience, but it also, I had experienced a whole other level at that time of unconditional love. And I was just like, wow, I was just so happy, and it was like amazing. And maybe I was sort of like tossed up for like 2 weeks, but it wasn't a big deal. And then after that, there was like a divorce and like a whole bunch of stuff and like the 3D and everything just went, that's fine. That's normal.
It all started falling.
Yeah, but it was good.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I remember when I was going through my quickening, Kundalini experiences and all that, and that when I have the intense unbalances with the energy that was so intense going through my chakras, like I said before, I believe I didn't know what was happening. I just knew that that energy was running through my body. I didn't know anything about chakras. I didn't know anything about Kundalini. I was dreaming about snakes too. So duh. So but
I mean, I don't like them. I mean, sorry, they're not my favorite in the 3D, but they're always everywhere, and I just connect them with the dragons. So I'm like, yes, enter me.
I know. I love snakes. Nothing wrong. I love snakes, but but yeah. So I was getting these intense energy surges through my body and going through that dark night where everything was falling apart, and I was not in this reality. I was seeing parallel lives, and I could see if I made a decision, just walking my dog, if I made the decision to cross the street or something, or rather than go straight, I saw a truck hit us, that type of thing. Whereas, going straight, everything was okay. So I saw these different points of realities happening. My ex-boyfriend and I got into a fight. I saw how that went off into another reality that was not a good reality. Instead of working on it and fixing the fight, where we went forward, and that was one of the things that broke apart with me too, was ending that relationship. So I saw these reality splits as I was going through this quickening, and that's what my guides called it, was a quickening. So I have, I didn't know anything else. I just heard them saying that. Anyway, as I was having these surges and getting through all these things, there was times like you explained, Ashley, as well, where I was walking around in total bliss and feeling that it was like a orgasm. my body was in constant orgasm.
Well, and then it's okay to talk about that, right? Because we have physical bodies, and our physical bodies feel like orgasms, basically, but it's energy, because the physical structure relates it to that, and that's okay. And if I have a friend that was 16 and went through that and didn't know anything and had a Kundalini experience at 16. And it because things are happening in the physical body, but energy is happening. So don't be afraid. That's okay.
Oh, I'm not afraid.
No, not you. I'm just saying.
The audience.
You were 16 or 7. Like, it's not a traumatic thing, even though it might feel like it, especially depending on how you grew up.
Definitely. Yeah, because you're going through these energy surges, and it doesn't make any sense. And that's why it's so important that we need to know about these things and what's happening, especially now what's going on. But yeah, I mean, everything just looked so bright, and I would, and I think about something, and it was like there it was. So I wasn't balanced, but I was moving up and down, I guess the chakras, moving up and down and seeing what that was all about. It's too bad I didn't know what the heck was going on, but now I understand a little bit more about it. And I had a mini one just a couple weeks ago. I think I shared, it's been 3 weeks now, where I felt the energy surge in my lower chakras and moving up. And then it settled in my heart center. And I just felt that it was this warmth, and it was amazing to feel that in my heart center. And I wasn't scared anymore, because as it was going through my lower chakras, it was giving me anxiety and those types of things. But as it moved up, I felt it settle in my heart center. It was really amazing.
Yeah. Sharon, as you're talking, it's so fascinating to hear from everybody how all this stuff lines up, because we're talking about 3 different things, but they're not either. Like they kind of seem to come along with each other. Because as you're talking, I'm thinking about like the first time I had a really intense spiritual experience that I could really relate it to an awakening kind of thing, is I was very early on in my spiritual life. It's been about 22, 23 years ago. And I was studying pranic healing. If anybody's heard of pranic healing, it's intense. Like you're clearing lifetimes of stuff through deep meditation. Plus you're learning how to open up chakras and heal chakras. And it was intense. And I think maybe I had meditated maybe 4 or 5 times with the group. And I remember doing I dedicate my rest of my life to serving God and all that is love and light, and whatever doesn't match that,
boom,
remove it from
my life. Blow it up.
Be careful what you ask for. Totally. And it was so wonderful. And I remember in the meditation, it was on Wesak. For anybody who does Wesak, it's the first Taurus moon. And this energy coming down, just like boom. And I could see it in my mind's eye, just like a 2-inch beam of like this electric light just came down into me and ignited the Kundalini. And I had energy running up, and I'm crying and I'm trying to be quiet. Everybody's meditating, and had that for 3 or 4 days after. I could feel the energy moving up. And then I just felt like, and I was getting headaches. Then I had an experience that the top of my head opened up and I could see out the top of my head. And I called the teacher that we were working with, and he's like, I don't know what to tell you. And so it was one of these things where I had to go through this. And one day it was raining, and I could literally see the rain coming into the top of my head. It was the craziest thing. And meanwhile, having that orgasmic energy coming up and moving through. And then boyfriend broke up with me, car broke down, got kicked out of the place I was living, kids went nuts, had to move. I mean, it was just like, well, I decided this spiritual stuff is like not for me. And that lasted about 2 weeks because my body was like, no.
Wow. I guess I never thought of that perspective. I'm just like, more.
It scared the heck out of me. And I think part of it was I had a teacher who could not help. He's like, I don't know.
I don't love that response.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was really strange, but immediately I noticed being really sensitive to people, not being able to be around certain people that I, loved and adored before.
Anything before this? I mean, like, I didn't mean it like the way it just sounded, but I mean, did
you do anything?
Did you meditate or like
a little bit? I was just tiptoeing into it. Okay. I had a gal that lived next door to me that was a personal trainer. Tony, if you're out there, I love you, man. And she gave me the book Paramahansa Yogananda, Autobiography of a Yogi.
Mm.
And so I was reading that, and that started activating me. Like I would have like energy surges, like,
I love when great people write books and they're connected because there's transmissions in them.
So good. And it lit me up. And which is why I had a friend who's like, oh, let's go, take this class. I'm like, yeah. And it was just like, bam. Looking back, I know that I was ripe for all of that to happen, right? It was my time. I probably had a contract. Matter of fact, I can say, I just got chills. I had a contract that at that time in my life, it's time for me to get on my spiritual journey and be who I am, because I know, and I've known since I was a child, that I'm supposed to be here during this time of transition. But I didn't, holy moly, just boom, everything that didn't match left. And I ended up moving into a wonderful new place where I actually had a lot of spiritual people around me that supported me in the next phase. But those energy surges, holy moly.
Yeah.
I still get them. I can get around somebody and my whole body feels like almost like tenses down, and then boom, just expands. And I experience inside and outside, like you were talking about, Ashley, like I feel it in and on and outside all at the same time, which is really fun because you become very familiar with your multidimensional self, all of the above. the what do they call it? The multi-personality aspect of being a spiritually awakened person. All of us are doing good today.
Yeah. Yeah. How are you doing? Which one?
We're all fine. I'm good. Everything's fine.
We take roll. Is everybody here?
I know, right? Yeah, totally. Ashley, you were talking about Shakti and Tantric, the art of Tantric. And Yeshua, Jesus is the one who taught me about Tantra. And he was teaching me about, I didn't think about that. I didn't put that together until just now when you said that. He was teaching me about Tantra back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I'm sure opened the doorway or helped to open the doorway to all of these energy surges and what was going on. He knew about all this stuff. He taught it.
Yeah. Well, Mary Magdalene was the one that helped him reach his, right?
Right.
That's what I've heard.
Remember. I would say that's what we remember.
In the 815 transmission, which is funny because I was just talking to an astrologer and they were like, Uranus went retrograde basically like 5 days before I got this transmission, and then like 5 days after this, now my like best friend showed up at the door, and so it's just funny because then Uranus just went direct the other day, and so my understanding of astrology is different, I guess. And so I feel like when the planets are moving, there may be opening gateways for energy to come in. So I don't really think of anything as necessarily bad or good. But the whole point of that was not about that. But in this 815 transmission that basically was like first body dissolution, you need to be entirely conscious when all of this is going on, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff about hierarchy and dimensions. And I had a couple of other random questions, and how the ego was going to be engulfed over the next 6 to 9 months. And I was like, okay. And then there's this part that was this whole download about Mary Magdalene and Yeshua. And I was like, this feels so random. And I had sent it to a friend and I was like, ignore the Yeshua and the Magdalene part, because I don't know. But it was basically my galactic family was explaining the process of transfiguration. And so what's interesting about that is the Christ consciousness showed up with dragons the other day, and Mary Magdalene, or the Magdalene Collective, was there, and they were like, hey, let's talk about transfiguration. And I like didn't really get it, and then Yeshua was like, transfiguration, like I kept saying the same word over and over again. And then I was like, oh my goodness, like that is from that. So I went and like looked up the transmission. I'm like, oh my, it's right here. It's all right here. And so it's just really fascinating because they were talking about his ascension process and how they were working with their light bodies, and her mission, because she had worked with tantric energies in Egypt beforehand, And her mission was to work with him to help him to be able to accrete this amount of light within him so that he can basically transcend into his star, they like to call it star architecture, but this light body that basically has a different frequency than just, not just, but the, what is the thing that people, the Merkaba. And so it was just really fascinating. And I was like, okay, like, well, this seems kind of out of place, but it totally wasn't out of place because nothing is ever out of place.
No,
I
it's
just didn't know
not.
what
Yeah.
to do with it. I was just like, that's really interesting.
You weren't expecting something like that when
Yeah.
you're talking to dragons, but that confirms a lot of what I was getting too 20 years ago with my
Yep.
working with Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, and I saw that too. And he wasn't teaching me about it. Now that I want to correct myself, he was helping me remember about Tantra.
Darn it.
Right? Helping me remember about Tantra, not teaching.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Tell you.
remember when I first got the information, because I've always felt so connected to Mary Magdalene, even before I knew who she was. And my first memory of being in her or a part of her was in the temples, learning all that stuff through the Isis temples and even the Horus teachings, the Isis and the Horus teachings that she learned, which is she had that male-female balance is why she could help him. And it was so cool. And when you were talking, Ashley, it was neat because I was being shown, you know, the Kundalini, the snakes and stuff in it. It secretes that mana into the pituitary gland for awakening. And that was part of and just being shown just right now. And it totally makes sense that awakening that part of his pineal gland, not pituitary, to awaken him to be able to walk through what he walked through for the ascension, for his transfiguration. Whew.
And it's I should find a quote from there because it was just very interesting because it had to do with the pain body. But I also think
Mhm.
and I also think it's important to remember that Mary, Buddha, and Yeshua, they incarnated many lifetimes before they reached that lifetime. So it wasn't like their first go around.
Yeah, no.
You know, it's like they've been preparing and preparing and preparing. And there's a lot of very interesting, and part of me just thinks they're all true, where, you know, there was no crucifixion and it was staged by the Arcturians. Like I've heard that too. And I'm like, that's fascinating because maybe there's a timeline out there where that happened. I don't know.
Right.
And most likely there is, because there is a lot of people that it's not in their memory banks. You know, they're like, no, that never happened. That's just a story. But you know what? So is everything else.
Yeah, it all exists at the same time. And boy, did I learn that when I was going through my quickening, that I could actually see different timelines.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to create a parallel timeline.
No, and we're living it right now too.
Yeah.
We got all these different timelines going on.
So
I was
it's
like, that was a key word, parallel. Sorry, that was the thing. It just one of the things that I know we should probably get back to the Dark Night, but one of the things that's been coming up a lot is how we are being asked right now for those who desire to be part of solely within the fifth dimension, are being asked to create parallel timelines, like to sort of like be in this other space while also here. So it's like, it's not, because right now it's there is, I want to say there is no future, right? Not in a negative way, like we're all going to explode, but there is no future because everything is shifting so much that it's like, just keep creating this parallel timeline over here, and it's with you. And this, what's happening, it's also interesting because they're like, you need to station yourself outside of time, and I was like, finally, like but that doesn't have anything to do with the parallel timeline. But the parallel timeline,
you've never been in time.
A little bit.
Okay.
but being outside of time, it's like it made sense finally, because the beings have always been like, look, you're never going to be on time. So you need to start manifesting people that are going to be patient with you and know that you're going to always show up, even if it's like 15 minutes behind, and just be okay with it. So finally, they're like, you need to station yourself outside of time. And I mean, there's others that are doing this too. And I really believe that this is actually helping to anchor in the other dimensions that are, and for the earth, right? So I was like, ugh, like there's a purpose for this. Right. And then they're like, and then just bring time closer to you so that you can, it's closer to weave in and out of it, but mostly you'll be in this no time space. So I'm like, all right. But for other people that it's just what we're here for, right? So, and we can create this parallel time. So rather than trying to future forward, just keep creating what you're desiring over here. And then all of a sudden, you won't see the timelines converge like this, but the word convergence is also really important. So there will be a point where the parallel ends up converging with what you've been creating over here. So this is why there's, I want to say a lot, because that's my perspective. Just like there's a lot of star seeds out there, and then you wonder where they all are. Right. So to me, there's a lot of people, or a few, that are out there that are creating basically new modes of ways of being, and financial systems in these communities. And that's kind of what's happening right now, which is why if somebody is feeling the desire to move, to maybe just sit with it for a little bit, because things are still shaking out. And I got a metaphor, and it actually came through someone else. They were talking about, if anybody's seen sand on speakers, right? And then it takes a shape like what's behind, maybe not the one that's behind Sharon's head, but it takes a geometric shape. And then when you change the frequency, it shifts into another geometric shape. So our beloved planet has been waiting for our butts for a very long time. And she's like, all right, the quantum energy is here. I desire to be a solar being, because we're all solar beings. And this is part of the ascension process, is to become solar. This is my understanding. So she's like, this is my time, like now or never, like you're gonna hop on and we're gonna do this, or you don't hop on. And I guess you can find out what the not hopping on looks like. I'm on board. Fasten your seatbelts, push your tray tables up.
I know, right?
Hold on, because we're in turbulence.
That's the dark night of the soul right there.
So we're basically right now, from a little bit before 2020 and into 2025, collectively we're in between the frequencies. So right now the sand is doing this. So if anybody, because I keep hearing this phrase all the time, once things settle down, and I will blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, are you going to wait till 2025 to like make that decision? That seems like maybe you want to make kind of soon, because everything just might not be comfortable. It's not going to feel settled. There's a lot of people that are like, I can't ground. And I'm like, we've been telling you this for like 2 years. Like, find a different way to ground, right? Because the earth is shifting. Plus, we're all floating on top of magma right now. So we're floating. Enjoy the floating.
Yeah. Right. No, that's awesome. Can you explain to us what's moving into a solar being looks like for you, or would look like for us?
That's a great question. So what
I thought so.
Okay, I guess we're gonna go back to the Dark Night.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with it.
It actually does have absolutely everything to do with the Dark Night. Sorry, you're right. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So I think I actually put the Dark Night. I think I would place the Dark Night, if we're following alchemy, I would place it in like number 6, which I think is after fermentation. It's like calcification, and then fermentation, and then Dark Night, and then I can't just. The distillation, I think, is after that. I'm going to be doing an alchemy dragon class in August. That starts in August. It's one of the Galactic guided intensives. I don't exactly know what it's going to be, but those are always the best ones to be in my opinion.
Sounds amazing.
So to me, everything comes down to alchemy, which is all about union, right? And so part of the process starts with gold, and gold is a frequency, it's not a material. And so that's the first thing that we need so the lead, the blah 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 blah, and then you get to the gold, and then you're like, okay, but it's not, has nothing to do with this. It has
with the gold bar. Yeah.
it's about the frequency of gold. And we are the great work, we are the prima materia, like we are that material, right? So we are the ones that transform. So there are a million things within us, maybe not a million, that we have to bring into union. One of them is the womb space, whether you're a male or female, and like bringing that into union with the throat, because they need to be brought together into union. It's about bringing the masculine and the feminine together. I know that twin flame is like, everybody's throwing this word around, and twin flames to me, okay, they are real, but there is a belief that you are only a half, and that your twin flame is your other half, which really promotes lack of wholeness. And so that is where I completely disagree. But that being might have been a counterpart of yours from your galactic consciousness or from source. And what I mean by that is it's like they come out in pairs, but they're already whole unto themselves. So it's like if you are like I don't want to, that's not a good example, but it's just like if you were not trapped somewhere, if you and someone else went through something that was kind of traumatic, you would feel very close because you'd almost be bonded and bound, not bonded by that experience, right? So you remember that it's like a shared sort of trauma in a way, because it's kind of a birth. So while we're here, sometimes we draw in those relationships, and then this year is a lot about relationship, because it all comes to relationship to the self. Right. So when we are able to bring all of these things into union and understand that there is no separation, and then if we can get that download, and to actually remember, like not just remember, because I remember all of these things, which is why when I was in my dark night, I was like, why, like I know all of this already, why? Right? But it was just like, and it's like, okay, we're gonna process this and really grieve this, and also recognize that within you. So if we just take the masculine and the feminine stereotypically, and the feminine is holding the wound of original separation, and then the masculine actually is holding on to, I don't want to lose my identity, so I don't want to merge. So that there's these two things that are going on, one that wants to merge and one that doesn't want to merge. So bringing them together within you and having them merge, which sometimes can be like why I believe from listening, but don't know because I'm not Sharon, that a lot of Sharon's past life stuff, the purpose was for her to do exactly what she's doing today, but also to heal a lot of those lifetimes so that she could merge those sides of herself. I had one being that was left, that was in this very ancient Egyptian male, and I was like, let's get married. Like I kind of know what to do. I'm like, why are you hanging on? And he basically was holding a bunch of stuff for me, and there was like nothing left in me. So I unified with him, which is just an aspect of me. And then before that, there was I call her my dark angel, right? I did something, like there was like a union with this dark being, and I have memories of looking for a twin, but not in the twin flame thing. I was basically looking for this part of me that I was always trying to protect, but it was also like a shadow part of me. Even in my 20s, I found some writings. I'm like, I feel like I have a twin and I can't find her, but also she's hunting me, I'm hunting her. We're not trying to kill each other. But then when I was in grad school, this aspect of myself that was very much a shadow part of myself came in and like really did try and kill me. And the second night she came in, and I was like, I don't have time for this. Just kill me. Like, get it over with. And then she did, and it was fine. So then that was
just
over.
Need to face it.
Yeah, because it's like, I really don't have, just kill me. I don't have time. Like, I do not have time for this. Like, I am in grad school. Let's move it along. Just here's my neck. Right? Wow. So,
Yeah.
so I merged basically, I like went through this ceremony thing and merged with this angelic but dark being, but I had already gone into the void and I was like, this is so pure, it's beautiful, right? Because that's what we're being asked to go into. So if we want to compare this to a caterpillar and a butterfly, it is the caterpillar that goes into the cocoon. And when the caterpillar is in there, it's still a caterpillar. And then these butterfly cells start coming and it's like, hey, and it starts to like, I'm going to say shoot like the butterfly cells, right? And then more come in and then more come in and then it just loses. And so it has to surrender because it doesn't know itself as a butterfly yet, right? And so then these cells come and then it literally dissolves, right? And it turns to goo. So the dark night is part of it, is like the darkness of the cocoon surrendering and turning to goo. So that you can actually be a butterfly. And that's not comfortable. Like there is no way that that is comfortable, but you can't ask the butterfly because it doesn't remember that. And you can't go ask the caterpillar because it doesn't remember because it hasn't had the experience yet, which is why the dark night is so personal and why it has purpose and why it will influence the psychology of you and your brain and all these other things, and it can feel like depression. And if you've never experienced depression in your life, then it could be maybe alarming, but maybe you can trust that I've not been depressed before, like I'm not depressed, and then you can trust that it's not depression, right? And to be okay with it. So to me, once we are in union, I feel like there are options. So what I personally have been shown, because I was like, there is no way that like I don't need another person, because do I need another person? Or like it can be beneficial to have a counterpart that is resonating with you. But when you come together, you are creating another body. So to me, it means you're becoming like a larger being, right? But those two parts come together. And what I was shown, I think I don't know if it's 3 or 4, 3 kind of feels right. It's like, then that being, and then these other pairs come together, and then they create another body. And then that body gets to be a bigger body and a larger body until you kind of become a solar body. But this also feels very dragon to me, and not maybe what a lot of people are necessarily doing. So, I believe in sacred marriage, but it requires, like, sacred marriage is absolutely not what we think it is. Whatever is in your brain that says that you need to live in the same house or get married or do whatever, like that's not it, because it's the light bodies plus, I like to use the term Raush Elohim, which is the breath of light. Well, there's the Elohim beings, but I've always had this vision since I was a child of like this dove, right, that like flies over the water, or this bird being, and it just breathes on it and then stuff starts to form. And that is the Holy Spirit, or it's just the breath from source. Like pick a term that doesn't trigger you, and then maybe take the term that does trigger you and go sit with it later. Because technically every word is neutral.
Yeah.
So if something triggers you, there's joy in
There's a reason for it.
Yeah, so that is my understanding. But I also love solar bodies, and there's something called the solar rishis, and this new template that's coming into Earth, and like a whole new tree of life thing, and these solar discs that have energies that are really holding the history of the earth, because that's been our biggest issue, is that our own history has been kept from us. Right. And then beyond that, there have been false memories that have been placed within us. This is why discernment is so important. Is that mine? Is that not mine? And then to process it through us. But ultimately, I always just focus on I don't know how that's going to happen, because they like showed this to me, and then I was like, all right, there's no way that you're gonna like, what is the plan B? Because it feels like my galactic family has like 5 plans after, like, because it's happening. Because I remember them coming in on that 8:15 transmission or something, and they were like, it doesn't matter if you just lay there in the backyard and don't do anything, because you will be taken to where you need to go at the time, because there's like 12 of you, and basically you've been outvoted. And everybody's on board, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm on board too, and they know that, right? But it was just funny to hear that, but it also would have been way more painful, like if I literally did nothing,
If you did nothing,
literally
yeah.
just laid in the backyard.
Yeah, totally.
So it's they also said that you've just been designed, they're like, don't worry, you've been designed in a certain way that you can accrete double the light in that moment and do something. But then I'm not even here, and then everybody would think I was dead in this planet anyway. So if I die, I'm a solar being, so we can celebrate that. So if you no longer see me, I'm dead.
That's right, yeah.
Time to throw a party.
There will be no body left. I mean, or maybe they will. I don't know. I don't know how that works, because I was like, that's in like, is that in like a millennia? And they're like, it's way sooner than you think. And I was like, I'm
Oh, wow.
gonna leave that. And what is soon? So I'm gonna leave
I
that.
know. We hear that soon word from them a lot, don't we?
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm gonna leave that over there. And can you please give me some information that can help people? And it's mostly purity of motivation, right? Because I hear a lot of people say, I want to ascend because I don't want to be here anymore. So it's like, just shift the frequency and just keep working on the motivation part. And ideally, if you can get yourself into a place of divine neutrality, where your life is just as incredible, whether there's somebody else in it with you, like a partner in it or not in it. And then that's when you get into that space, you become unshakable, undeniable.
Exactly.
You're totally living as your authentic self. And then it doesn't matter if we're in this in-between state where all the sand pieces are like so
what you just said about and I totally get that. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to ascend, I want to get out of here, that kind of thing. I was watching a video with Michael Tamura. I believe that's his name. He's a Japanese metaphysical teacher. I'm going to be sitting in with Third Eye Salon when they interview him. And so I'm like, I need to learn about this guy. And he said something very wise. And he said something that made a lot of sense. He said, when you keep wanting to get out of here is when you keep coming back or you keep staying. But when you finally get to that point, and when you get to that point where you don't want to leave anymore, that you are in that space of acceptance, and you know where that you are here for a reason or whatever, is when you don't have to come back. Yeah. Or then it's okay to leave.
And it's just sort of the similar, like, I want to heal this karma in my family because I never want to incarnate or reincarnate with these people again. I'm always like, okay. Like, because there's no judgment. It is right. What it is. And we're also allowed to feel whatever it is that
of course
we feel.
Oh, believe me, I know. Yeah. I've been there many, many, many times. But yeah, with the family thing, and I want to heal this karma because I don't want to be with them anymore. That's interesting, because when we are looking at our soul agreements, then we realize we agreed to all this with them, and we have a much different perspective. That it was something that we agreed to do together. So we've got some comments here. Let me see.
I love questions.
Yeah. So Moto Gray says, wow, about the butterfly, I just realized as I thought I had the emaciated caterpillar experience a few years ago and was past it. But that was only psychological. Now it's happening in the physical. Ashley, what you are now saying brought that to mind. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes. And then Kristen Marie Heals.
Oh, Christine.
Christine, yes. That hits so close to home. Thank you for sharing that sentiment. Okay.
Nice.
Amazing stuff.
So many things. There's
I
so
know,
many things.
so many things. And as you were talking, Ashley, I was just having these visions of our solar bodies and our, just filled with so much light. It reminded me of that hand that came down 3 weeks ago and filled me with, it says, you are moving from the land of the dead to the land of the light, and filled all this light. And it was just pure, that hand was just pure light.
Oh, was that part of your recent Kundalini?
That was what caused it.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know that much about this one, but when I was sharing the Shakti thing with someone, and it's not like something I was walking around doing, but all of a sudden you're talking about it with someone, and this person was like, oh, I've studied in an ashram, and I was like, oh, well, interesting. And then she just said, you're so lucky that you had that experience that way, because I guess historically speaking, in order to have a Shakti experience, you have to have a guru come in and give you something called Shakti pot to put it in you, which in that guru is usually male. So there's nothing wrong with this, because I started like reading about it. It just, it depends, like anytime you're working with a guru, sovereignty, right? But I think it was just the male, and there's a power thing, and I just was like, oh, I will definitely be grateful for that, because I didn't know. So
They said male teacher?
No, but I mean, like you have to be given this energy in order for the Shakti to rise, which usually historically comes from like a guru that's normally male.
Okay.
And they just said it's great that you got it from Galactics, I guess.
From
And
Galactics and Dragons.
I was like, okay.
Oh my.
Yeah, and that's the cultural and traditional way that it's done. I've heard a lot of people have received the Shakti not from a guru, and a lot of people told them, oh no, it's not, it doesn't count if it's not from the guru. But we're shifting into this time of sovereignty, just like you said, where we are whole and we are complete, and we can receive those things. Now, a lot of us have worked many, 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 many lifetimes to be able to be prepared to receive that.
Yeah.
And we're moving out of having to rely on someone else to give us our spiritual sustenance. We can go straight to the source.
Yeah. I did tell him, and the hand was not human. It was extraterrestrial. It had long fingers.
I got that part.
I did too.
Yeah,
no, I got the non-human part.
Non-human.
It was more like this.
It was, with and I could see the veins. But I actually said afterwards, after I was going through that anxiety, I went through 3 days of it. Can you take a little bit easier on me? A little bit easier, okay? I already went through a month and a half of this stuff, and then some afterwards, in between. But whatever it takes. I don't welcome any of that anymore. So we have another comment here. Let's see. From Moto Gray. As amazing as it might be, it is no fun. Yes, and that's
And that was something I kind of wanted to speak to too, because we're kind of talking about the whoa part of it, but there's also moments of that sweet, sweet bliss where everything's in alignment. I had another experience over the Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and just after, where I was just in absolute connection and bliss. And that is part of the whole thing too. You can also experience the elevation, the lifting, the awakening, the activation, all that we're talking about here through that bliss experience as well. So remember, it's not all arrows and slingshots,
Well, and it's always fun in, I want to say, like the beginning anyways, right? Because I feel like humans in general like to project parents onto the universe. Like, and then somebody might say, oh, I'm a good person because I've been doing yoga for 20 years. And it's like the universe it's not apparent. In a lot of ways, while it is unconditionally loving, you have to remember that in that energy, if we want to look at it as like the force, a force field, like there's the mother force, and you can, it's nurturing everything, right? It's not just nurturing you because you're good. It's nurturing everything because everything is divine, which means it's also feeding what we would consider to be the negative. So everything is fed equally, everything is loved, right? So it's yeah, so I just wanted to say it's not about deserving. They had a huge transmission about the word deserve, but the other part is, where was I going with this? It was important. When you are in the dark night, I'm going to say like a typical one, your spiritual endurance is being tested, right? And I'm not even a big fan of saying the universe is testing you, right? But this is, and it's testing your resolve, kind of, because we have forgotten that we're extremely resilient. Like we are humans are very resilient. And if you allow yourself, like we're very good at surviving. It just seems like we suck at thriving because we have not accepted that we are worthy. And somebody asked me the other day, like, what makes me worthy of this? And I just had this thought, well, the question that am I worthy or not worthy, that question is the problem. It's not the response to the question, it's the question itself. We don't even need to be asking that because the universe is infinite. Everything is infinite. There is abundance. There is enough for everyone and everything. So when we're in these places and spaces and we feel that there is no God, source, whatever, everybody's turning their back on us, we're alone, et cetera, it's like you're being asked to, and this was the whole point of me, like, so I dive, la 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 la, like, you know, and there's lots of days of this and like finding things and shadow stuff. So then I'm in the void and there's nothing there. And that's basically like the infinite alpha and omega, which is the beginning and the end, which are constantly cycling together at the same time. So the blackness that is so pure that there is no light means there is no shadow. There's nothing there, which is the same as the light, right? So they come together, but they don't really come together until you are like, you look at yourself and you realize, wait, I am the divine. Like it's me. Right. It's not actually something outside of me. So that's why it feels like you've been abandoned and you've experienced all of these things because you are the God, right? Like you are God. And so all of these serve a purpose and nobody's is going to look like mine and mine isn't going to look like anybody else's because we all are designed very uniquely and differently, but there will be overlaps, right? And so and experiences, so this most likely will not happen to someone that, like, the whole Saint John of the Cross is talking to other Carmelites. These are people that have dedicated themselves in some way, so they are capable of going through this. So I'm wondering, and I'm really not clear on this, and I would love to hear what you guys have what you ladies have to say about this. These mini dark nights that people talk about, I wonder if sometimes they are like training grounds or something, because a lot of the previous experiences, because when I was in it, I was like, man, I know that I'm clearly trained for this, like all of this, even like I'm even like an only child. And so I was surprised at like how hard it hit me, except they were like, well, you're also processing this whole chunk for the collective. And I'm collective, yeah. I'm like, okay, but it still is, and I'm still bringing it back to me because there was still part of me in it, and that's fine. But I still know like I am trained for this. But had I not had previous experiences and other things, then I wouldn't know that. So I guess I'm just remember that what you are experiencing, you are designed for. And I feel that that's true with every single experience that we have. We are designed for it. We're being asked to remember something because even in the tragedy or the trauma, there is a gift in there. And later you will be so glad that you had that traumatic experience because you will just be able to stand up or show up. Maybe it's for someone else, maybe it's for yourself, but it will prove itself worthy later. You don't even have to hang on to it or keep it like, in the top level of your awareness. It'll just be there. But we don't know, because we're not going to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations.
No,
Like,
and I believe that's why we have these too, is to help others that, like we're doing now, where people are, I wish that this was going on 20 years ago when I was going through mine. I would have been able to get through it a lot easier, but maybe I wouldn't have, although I will say, the psych ward was not so bad, but people actually end up in a psych ward, and luckily for me, it wasn't as bad as some people end up, going through their time. A week in the psych ward was a vacation for me. And I realized that the people in there with me were the sane ones. And people out here are insane. And we were communicating on a much higher level. The people that were there, like me, that were having these dark nights or awakenings or whatever, were communicating on a much higher level.
Yeah.
So, but also I just wanted to say that I believe that's an aspect of us of a lot of people having these awakenings too, is so we can help each other and help. And just, that's what we're here for, right? One of the reasons why we're here for is to help each other and help each other lift up. I do want to say one thing about what you said, Ashley, about denying or not feeling worthy, because I went through that with Yeshua when he first came to me. I didn't believe it was who he was, who he told me he was.
Well, I think that's good discernment, right? Because I feel like he's him and Archangel Michael and all the other ones. It's like they're like, let's impersonate them, see if they know what they're. So good job.
Right. Yeah. But when you're crying for a week because you feel that, that unconditional love, and and you're constantly processing all those lifetimes of shame and guilt and blah, 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 and all that, you don't feel worthy. You don't. And you don't feel worthy when you have the real deal there. You can tell that once you start tuning into yourself and they help you, then you can feel the real deal. You know who the real deal is. Yeah, totally. So he helped me understand if I don't feel worthy, that means that what I'm doing is denying God as well, like what you said. I'm denying myself, I'm denying God. That means that God is not worthy. Because when we see ourselves as God, embodiment, expression of God, then anything that we deny and we think that we're not worthy of, we are expressing that as God. Then basically that's what we're doing.
Sure.
I think what's awesome about that perspective is when light workers, or especially you empaths that are out there that are so afraid to hurt other people, that you choose your own suffering, because sacrifice doesn't equate to suffering, right? Because one of the questions to beings of the universe is like, you want something, what are you willing to sacrifice? But when they say that, it's not like, give me your right arm, right? It's like, will you work for it, or what? Not that you have to work for something in order to receive something, but usually there's something that needs to change, right?
In exchange.
Yeah. And it's not like a payment, it's something else, but it's the thing that when you remove this or dissolve this, then it allows space for the other thing. So that's really what it is. But for the empaths out there, if you are suffering and you don't want someone else to suffer, to understand that your suffering is by you suffering, you're basically creating suffering, right? So it doesn't matter if it's you or another person, because if you hurt yourself, you're hurting someone else. And that's like, we know that, but if you can like really feel into that, right? If you can see yourself as the other person because you're very concerned about their feelings, right? Well, you can also be concerned about yours. A lot of times light workers say to do no harm. Like that's part of the thing, is the saying or whatever, is to do no harm, but that also has to include you. So sometimes that means like, no, I can't work today, or I don't have the energy for it, because it doesn't help to overtax your system, right? Oxygen mask first kind of thing. And we've somehow equated that to being self-centered, egotistical or something, but it's not. Self-care is not selfish.
Well, history has programmed us with self-sacrifice. You know, it's like we're all coming out of that concept of you're good if you sacrifice. You know, if you go without, you're better than those that have. And I do ancestral healing with my clients, almost all of them, incarnational and ancestral, to break a lot of those vows, those agreements that we made in past lives, to suffering, to poverty, to not being worthy. And in all of that, like you were saying, Sharon, is we've been denying God, the God within us. And another thing that I wanted to comment too, you know, a lot of times, Ashley, you were talking about how we're like, oh, the universe is testing us. Well, we are the creation. We are the creators. We are the creation. So it's that aspect. The universe is an aspect of us. So it's like we're challenging ourselves. We're putting ourselves up on the podium and saying, are you going to be what you have proposed to be? Are you going to meet your soul here? Are you going to step up? And it's our own aspects of our own self that's putting us there. And I know coming to an understanding of that took some, not all of it, but took some of the fear that there was something out there still punishing me, still looking for me to screw up, still, because that was a concept of God, right? Sitting up there with the lightning bolt, waiting for you to mess up, and it's like, ka-ch. And it's not, it's all us. And when we come to that, we can start being more compassionate for ourselves and others, understanding that we are all of that. When it seems like the world is coming down on us, when the universe is just tripping us up everywhere, it's like, wait a minute, we take a step back and we look into our own self. Where are we tripping our own selves up? Where are we not standing up and being whole? Where are we turning our power over to the outside, to the universe that's punishing us, to the guru, right? Where are we turning that power over? And we bring that power back in. We again become sovereign. We become our own awareness of God in this presence. And that outside kind of vilification begins to end, and compassion and understanding for ourselves and others can begin to grow. So when we take that responsibility of being not only the creator, but the creation, and we begin to really start growing up and beginning to awaken consciously. And so many people are. And another note, it's really hard to stay there all the time, because it's like, yes, I get it. And then it's like, you know, it's a journey like everything else is.
But I wonder, has it gotten easier for you? Because I think that's the point, right? Like maybe it's like this, but really I feel like those waves start to go like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes with the integration of that understanding too. It comes with understanding, wow, I did that. You know, my car broke down on the middle of the freeway, and, you know, gosh darn it, the car, gosh darn it, this, gosh darn it. And it's like, well, no, wait a minute. I did that. There was something within me that created this drama, created this whole thing, and you can, you know, handle it. But then look back on it, it's like, what is it within me that created all this drama? And I actually had a car accident one time, and I was like, oh, you know, got home, and it was like, why did I create this? And the first answer that came to me was, you needed some attention.
Oh,
I was like, not me, no. And then another little thing popped up. You know, Michelle, you know, it's like you're craving attention. And another thing popped up. How come you're always trying to get attention? It was like,
ooh, those lower voices feel a little bit different. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, and they do, but you know what? It's hello, it's all me.
Yeah.
It's all me. And it was like, okay, let's take a look at this. And it kind of turned out that I had withdrawn myself. I was isolating a little bit. And then I was like going, "Oh, nobody pays attention to me."
Oh, I
Well, I wasn't doing my part either. Right. And so it's
So does that equate to not paying attention to yourself?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm great at being a hermit. I'm a
Mhm.
Virgo, and you are too,
I'm a
Sharon.
Virgo, yeah.
And we, our card in the tarot is the Hermit card. I
Mhm.
am happy, happy,
like that.
happy in
I like
my
the light.
own little
Yours.
world.
I see, yeah, I mean, when I have challenges, I see them now as challenges. I don't freak out
Mhm.
anymore if something happens. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to figure out, okay, how am I going to get through this with as much ease as possible? I don't stress out. I've gotten to that point in my life, thank God, where my challenges are not big challenges anymore.
Yeah.
So they're, and knock on wood, but but anything that comes my way, I know, right? I'll handle it. I can handle it with ease and grace. And I've learned that it's about balance. It's all about balance. And when we have those good times, that's awesome. And then sometimes when when we dip a little bit, that's okay. But we always know where our balance is.
Yeah.
And that's what I've definitely learned along the way is it's being high all the time and I don't know how to put it.
That was perfect. Being high all the time.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? Yeah, but you know what I mean? Where you're not really grounded in your life, okay? And because I've been there, where you're not really grounded in your life, you're not doing your work, or you're not meeting your deadlines, or doing things that you need to do if you want to be a productive person, a productive member of society, kind of thing. So we have all those. So I find it's a matter of finding balance and meeting my day every day with with um, with that type of mindset, where I know that this is an amazing day. What every day is different. Every day, no matter what you're doing, every day is different. And I'm going to make this a really amazing day and do the best that I can to help as many people as possible. And if I have some challenges along the way, then I'll learn from them and get through them as easy as I can. Took me a while to, to learn that,
I
It does
also
take a while,
to be
doesn't
in
it?
that space.
Yeah, I also think so you just said to help as many people as possible. It's also okay if all that you can do is help yourself that day. And I really want to especially say this.
Sure.
I am not a mother to human children in this lifetime. But I want to say that society has never appreciated what it means to be a mother or a father, but those are some of the most important roles that actually exist in
Definitely.
society, and it's not an accident that they're not valued.
Yeah. Oh no,
So
it's yeah.
yeah, so when you demonstrate self-care and good boundaries, you are emanating what it means to do that. So then your children see that, and then they start emanating or emulating, copying that out into the world, and then they learn that, and that is the most valuable thing that you can do to anybody, and to recognize that you can be influencing people or children around you
Right.
all the time. So
Yeah, thank you for bringing that in, Ashley, because that's something that I had to learn to do is, and now that I'm out of the corporate world, I can do it, but I was doing it before too, where I spend my morning is my time for me, and I make sure that that time is, for my meditation, for my yoga or whatever, to, to hang out with my critters, that, because I didn't raise any children. I don't have any children either. And that type of thing is my nurturing time. And my evenings, my day is for my work and for, just being present for the planet, present for humanity. And when I do that, I think when we are as we get through our dark nights of the soul, and as we get through our quickenings and awakenings, and we're present for the planet in the way that we want to be, as we're walking through our day, we are nurturing ourselves as we're interacting with people and helping people. That's nurturing to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we do have to take care of ourselves, especially the more and more we step into standing in this high frequency space too. We have to care for ourselves because we become like fine-tuned engines. We're a bunch of Lamborghinis running around.
I love that.
Yeah, you can't just put, anything in a Lamborghini. And you don't park it, in a scary place. You got to park it in a good place. You got to give it good gas. Got to give it a wash once in a while.
I have my dragons protect my car whenever I park it somewhere.
Smart.
My dragon there. Yeah.
Smart.
I forgot about your car. You have an awesome car. It's really funny that you talk about Lamborghinis because, and I'm going to be on Sharon's show, I think next month, and I'll talk about this more there, a lot more there. But one of the things, my whole life, I've been like, when can I start? 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 Is it now? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? And finally, they came in and they're like, okay. Basically a being came in and went bloop bloop, but whatever, fast forward, they're like, okay, you can go to a psychic development class. And then I went and they're just like, here's the keys to the Ferrari. Right? Like, you must respect your energy because this came from like other lifetimes and other experiences. And I was like, okay. And like, I got it. And there was like total respect and honor. And so it makes sense why it didn't necessarily happen earlier. And also it's like a waste of energy for me to be walking around talking about star seeds when I'm like 19 or something.
Yeah.
And people are like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
What hit you?
Well, I remember,
California. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. I remember 20 years ago when my ex-boyfriend and I, we went on a trip to Cancun, I remember, and we were divers at that time, and we were sitting there talking with a couple, just having normal conversation, and I was starting to wake up, and I blurted out, now it's normal conversation. Well, everyone on the planet on Earth is from other planets. Like, that, right? And they looked at me like I had two heads. And and everyone stopped talking and then just started talking about something else.
Yeah.
Like, and he actually said, why afterwards, he was mad. He said, why did you say that? They all thought you were crazy. I'm like, and I knew it was ending, about that time anyway. So that was one of the nails in the coffin.
That's what my family used to look at me like that.
You couldn't talk about these things. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Oh God, yes. It was like every time I started going off on something, everybody look at each other, stop talking. No interact. It was weird. It was like they all planned it together. And then all of a sudden, bink, bink, it would change, which I'm pretty sure they did. And it was just like, oh my God. Keep your mouth shut.
Well, especially like if you start talking and you're already an empath and you feel all of the energy shift, it's like it gets real awkward and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But and you probably don't know it at the time, but you're actually feeling their discomfort, not yours, right? So it's
exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's an interesting experience.
Right. And that's another thing that Yeshua taught me is if it's negative, it's not yours. If it's positive, it's yours.
Nice.
That rule of thumb. Even if it's coming up from within you, which everything is anyway, but you're feeling whatever anybody else is feeling, all that negativity. If it's coming up within you, it's past stuff. It's still not yours.
Yep. Let it go.
Let it go. It's gone. Let it go. Yeah. So that's rule of thumb. And I love that.
I think when this always helps me whenever I'm going through a challenging time, and I don't mean 3D challenging, although that can be a part of it. I mean like other otherworldly challenging, or anytime anything is difficult, is I always remember, and this was shown to me when I was little. So if I ever did have moments of self-doubt, I was always able to do something for another. So I would know that anything that I do is affecting other aspects of myself. So I know that if I go through this, it's going to help these other beings that are around me, which I think there was a part of me that knew that they were me, because I always saw us holding hands, kind of like through whatever. So I never really felt alone, but also to remember, this is why a lot of us are here right now. So one, many of us, all of us, I want to say all, except that's never a favorite word because I don't know. Many of us are here because we're parts of collectives, right? So there's still healing that needs to be done, even if you're part of a star system, right? Even if you're like, I'm Arcturian and everybody's fine. Well, Arcturians have had histories, right? The Orions have had histories. And in a lot of those histories, there are warring histories. So a lot of people are here. And then when you choose differently, when you choose different timelines, when you make choices differently, it's important to remember that everything that happens here affects every dimensional layer up, but the reverse is not true. So when you heal something here, especially if you're in the military or something, or somehow involved in war, or you come from lineages that have fled from, like maybe your parents fled from the Middle East, or were in a refugee camp in Jordan and came here, whatever it is, that's still in your blood. And so there will be a connection up. So when you heal and you make changes here, whether you're healing them in your lineages or not, it's still affecting everything up. And when you ascend, or when you begin to accrete more light, and when you ascend, and I'm using the word ascend like not ascend out of the body, because some of us are really being offered opportunities to shift into an ascension field while still being visible here.
Mm-hmm.
When you do that, you're making what you have learned and what you have shifted available for your family, for your other fields that you are connected to, which absolutely profoundly, in a very huge way, shifts that collective, right? And so these are things that I remember when I'm in a hard situation and I feel that I cannot, or if I have doubt, but I remember that we can.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So,
yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's true. It was interesting. I used to go to it's called Centers for Spiritual Living. Like, they were open to everything, very non-denominational.
Mm-hmm.
And one time the minister said, I don't know what I'm doing, but something inside me does.
Oh,
So
yeah.
profound. It was like,
Yes.
oh, so true. There is something we need to learn to listen to that. That is that greater multidimensional aspect of us that has all of the wisdom of our ancestors, of our past lives, of the collective, of all of that we've created. It's all in here.
Yeah.
We have it all to access.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to wade through alligators to get there.
Right.
You know, the dark night of the soul.
We just had to get through those layers that are keeping us from accessing the good stuff.
Yeah. And we probably put those there too. You know, that there is thoughts that have come to me where we put things there to protect us. Sure. You know, those things that we come up against that seem to be unsolvable, or even some of the pain that we had that is triggered for no apparent reason, or for many apparent reasons. You know, we may have put those things in there to protect us, but now it's not serving the purpose that we need now. Mm-hmm. And so it's dissolving that.
Sorry, that just reminded me of the twin flame thing again. So there was a time, and the reason why a lot of the contracts before were so strong was because like very strong, extremely strong. That's why there's that that you can feel if anybody, I have not experienced a twin flame relationship. And before it was necessary, because the way that people were, when I say before, I mean like a long time before. I'm terrible with time, but not, I mean, way before the 50s, right? Like a long time ago. We could say like, I don't know, before the Renaissance or something, right? Like, we needed them because the way in which we remembered the divine was frequently through those types of relationships.
Yeah.
But things are, the encapsulated grid system, I mean, the encapsulated system has been removed. Like, stuff is much more open now. So those aren't necessary like they were at one time. And then there was another chunk of time where a lot of partnerships and stuff were not on the planet because they were distracting, right? Because there's a quality that can be very distracting by them, because there's illusion-y stuff that comes up, not from the relationship, but because it comes up from your own healing. So if you are in a dark night, and it's like a longer one, to one, be patient, two, because I think sometimes twin flame relationships can trigger dark nights for some people.
Sure.
Is not to make decisions, like huge decisions necessarily, unless you know that you're being totally guided, and then that's what you're supposed to do. That would be a recommendation. Also, writing everything that you're experiencing if you have the energy to do it. I literally finally just washed a load of dishes, like, because I have not been able to like hardly do anything. And I washed the dishes last night. I was very excited. And I mean, like, I didn't have Thanksgiving or Christmas at my house, just to be clear, but I haven't washed anything. Oh, I washed the sheets, right? Like, I was able to do that, but it's like there'll be a little influx of energy, and then I'll like go do a thing that I need to do. But the point is, you might not have any energy, but if you can record yourself or make notes, one of the things to recognize is to ask like, where are you deceiving yourself? Like, where are you lying to yourself? Because that's like one of the things that we're really good at. So to be aware of that, to be aware of the quality of your questions. And you don't have to be aware of it in the moment, which is why if you can just write the stuff down, and just be really honest with yourself. You don't have to show it to anybody. It can be your own little secret thing that nobody sees, just so that you can look at it later, maybe from a different perspective. So I guess I'm not entirely, because I haven't really channeled completely about it, but I know that twin flame relationships are going to be really on fire. Sorry.
On fire.
It's funny. This year, but also because of them, there's a lot of false twin flames. And what I mean by that is it's like this energy field that if you're a narcissist and you know how to manipulate, you can really claim to be, and I've seen this, you can claim to be somebody's twin flame and it's not, right? So to just be aware. And again, you're the only one that knows if this is your twin flame. And generally, I suggest not labeling anything.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
The being,
don't even worry about that.
yeah. The beings basically came in when I was asking, like, because I was like, I can't believe that there's like somebody here that's like from the other like from our universe. Like, this is insane. I never thought that was going to happen. And they were like, it's a container, and that is it. And only, nobody else is allowed in it. Both of you have the right to dissolve the container. Do not label it. And the reason for that is because the human self, we've all been programmed to 2.5 babies and whatever, marriage, house,
white picket fence,
male,
all that.
female, and if you're not any of those things, you're a loser.
Right.
Right? And none of that is true. It's all crazy talk, because it all looks different, and everything is different. And I really feel like relationships are going to be one of the more challenging things for human, because for human, yeah, for humans, um, to kind of move through, because there's so many programs about what love is and what love isn't. And the answer isn't necessarily polygamy or whatever. And maybe it is. I read an incredible article about a throuple, and they were all men, and they had this incredible daughter. They all had great jobs. They all, like, she had so much attention, and it was amazing, right? So who knows what it's going to look like? But but we can't label it, because again, we're the sand right now. So you don't want to be like making attachments to things, or you like might get split or between dimensional planes. I think it's just going to be very money, time. So I think it's really funny, because a lot of people are like, I'm 5D, I'm 5D. And I'm like, where are you on time? And it's like, well, it has to be like this and this and this and this and this. And it's like, okay, we all have something to look at that's going to be very challenging for us to let go of, while we allow ourselves to transition. Yeah.
We get the transmissions.
Yeah,
know, right?
To transition into that, because the challenge is you have to I like to compare things to like a trapeze artist, right? You have to trust that other bar is going to be there, and you can't be flailing around in the air on the way to the bar. Like, you have let go, and don't label, and you can't label anything. You have to trust that however it's going to be is going to be way better. And that is the purpose. It's going to be way better than you could have ever imagined, or that your brain can come up with, which is why we don't label, because it's going to be better and more profound and more loving and more unconditional than it could ever be.
Well, not only that, Ashley, I believe that, and what I've been shown is that it's not a place. It's when we're in that space of feeling when we're in the heart and we're feeling amazing and we're loving everything around us, we're in that that space of fourth density, fifth dimension, whatever you want to call it. It's not a place that we're going to. It's a mind. It's a mindset, and it's a frequency. There we go. It's a frequency that we're moving into. And I've seen the new world. I've started. I've been doing hypnotherapy to bring up my memories from my extraterrestrial encounters, more of them. And this last Sunday, I had an encounter or an experience that came up where I saw the new world and new earth, new world. I was hearing new world, and I was crying from so much love and so much peace was the word, peace, where we were so in tune with each other. I saw the whole scene. I was standing up it was Sananda that was with me, and we were standing up on a mountaintop looking over a cliff, and I could see the what he showed me was the new world, the new frequency that we're moving into, that as a collective we're moving into. And we were walking down the street talking to each other. We weren't ignoring each other. We were in the stores, in being a community, actually people that we don't know, in the parks, the stuff, we're having conversations with them. We're not afraid of each other. When someone was hurting or someone had a problem, we were all helping. Everyone would help. Anyone that was nearby or whatever would help. Anybody that could help, we helped each other. We weren't in that place of hurry, 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 go, 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 time, I got to get to my appointment and things like that. And so it was just such a feeling of ease and grace, and those words just keep coming to my mind. And we were in tune with the planet. We were in tune with the planet, and the planet was supporting us, and we were supporting the planet, and it was really I have to listen to the tape to hear everything that was coming through because I don't remember a lot of it, but it was just so amazing. I've also seen those visions in my meditations too. When I go into meditation, they just come up for me. So I know that we are headed there. It's a matter of us getting through these quickenings, awakenings, and dark nights of the soul and things like that.
And that we're creating that. That's the other
Yes.
thing. Like, it's not a portal that opens and then we
Mhm.
walk through it. And then everything has been created. Otherwise, we're just going to repeat Atlantis stuff over again,
Yes.
right? So so this is like, part of it is okay. So what are you going to create? So this is why they're like, stop focusing on fighting for right or wrong, because the systems are breaking down.
Mhm.
Now let's, for those that are here to create new systems, start creating them, and they're going to look different ways, and there's going to be a lot of new creations that come up, and some will resonate with you and some won't resonate with you. So
Yeah.
it's, and they use the word, because part of my dark night, I was just really judging myself, because I was like, I know better than this. I do not attach. What is my problem? And it's like, why are you judging this? Like, you're literally judging the process. And I'm just like, it's like, why human? Like, and they're like, okay, compassion for the human. So like, just didn't understand, because I knew exactly what was happening, and was very stuck on attachment, because attachment, it within me feels like it's like a going to cosmic jail or something if I create attachment. And they said, use the word attraction, right? And attraction is simply a resonance of where attraction helps you to discern. Like, that's it. And I was like, okay, all right, okay, right? There's a difference between judgment and discernment, fine line, right? But we like to judge ourselves, and then we're like, why am I being so judgmental? And I've said that, and then I heard there's a difference between discernment and judgment. Are you discerning? Are you judging? And I'm like, oh, I'm discerning. Because sometimes discerning can feel really harsh, right? So, but this is why relationship is really important. I really think this will be very challenging to move through, because we're in relation with everything around us. And in order to enter into this space, we have to create that, which means we have to understand how we relate to everything around us, and why we have preferences, and they're just preferences, right?
Mhm.
It's just, it's
It is okay to have preferences.
Mhm.
Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, and you were talking about the matrix breaking down. It's breaking down because we are waking up, because we're moving up in frequency, and we're seeing that what was the way we've been living, the way we've been hypnotized is no longer working. We're coming out of this deep sleep. So that's what's breaking down. I mean, I do understand that the like, how do I put it? The system that's been bombarded on us was dismantled, but we still carry it in our minds. And so that's what needs to come down. And that's what we have to move up in frequency and break that down within ourselves. And that's where these awakenings come in handy with. That's where they break down those systems within us, that matrix within us is the way I see
because
it.
reality is in our mind. You know, I'm being really guided to share something, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before. You know, we talk about going to another frequency, going somewhere else. We're not going. It's in our experience. It's in our perceptions. It's in our consciousness. And it's kind of like when you fall in love and you're walking down that same street that you walked down 30 times. But when you're in love, it's the colorful, and that everything's beautiful, and people are wonderful, and you're floating through the world. That's what it is. It's a consciousness shift. You can walk down that same street with the homeless guy over there that you love, but and the broken down, the trash in the street. But when you're in love, it's all beautiful. And that is that fifth dimensional consciousness. It's being in that frequency. And I'm sure it's even higher than, what I'm saying about being in love. but it's the same kind of a thing where everything is beautiful. We're not going to another place. We're finding the beauty and the allness is the word that I'm getting right here where we're at. And as we do that, everything shifts, all the consciousness shifts.
But I love that
Most of the
comparison.
consciousness shifts.
Yes, I love that comparison, Michele. The feeling of being in love. I mean,
Mhm.
is there really? I mean, I'm sure there's better feelings, but that is really a feeling that when we're in that space, we are floating on air and feeling, and so we're in love with ourselves, we're in love with everything around us, we're in love with source, we're in love with God, we're in love with ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why the ultimate thing is, all the great gurus, all the great teachers, Yeshua himself is like, it's love.
So it comes down
It's love.
to love.
And we have to be in love.
Yeah.
With us to maintain that, with
Right.
ourselves to maintain that level is, there's nothing so fabulous as that wonderful feeling. And we can all do it.
Yes, because we are love.
Yeah, and one of the things I think is important about that, though, is you've allowed yourself in that moment to open to receive. And that is going to be another challenge, right? And this goes back to the worthiness and unworthiness part, like to enter into this, to allow for the fifth dimension to come through you, or the beings always say to birth a new human through the heart field, is to be able to open to receive love, which can come in the form of help, right? Or whatever form it comes in, from everything around you, right? Not just necessarily from one person, but that experience that you have of being in love with one person can actually be received and given to everyone. And that was one of the questions they asked me. They were like, do you want to love everyone as much as you currently love this one person? And I was like, yeah, because this one person that entered my life, I was like, okay, you probably need to learn to receive, because we all do. Like, I just need to unleash my heart and just love you so much. Like, cause it's just like, I need to do something with this. So I'm just going to like Care Bear blast you in the face with like all, because I'm going to explode. Right. So like, that was a lot of this. And the beings were like, do you want to like do this for everyone? And I was like, yeah, right, because it's infinite, right? And if you can handle it, and these are the frequencies that we've been working towards being, and can you hold that frequency? And I think this is really part of why the heart breaks, right? Because I really felt like my heart was like cracking, and my body was like, my whole body was in pain, because it was just like the drool, crying, everything for like 30, 40 days, right? The whole point of that is that when we are in this reality where we're experiencing 3, 4, and 5D, there is still so much suffering, right? So it's like, now I can be in a place of suffering because I have suffered times 10. Because I was asking, I'm like, this feels, because I give a lot of sessions to people who have lost children, either to like suicide or something. A lot of times there usually are star seeds like that, or galactics, or some cosmic type of being that was done, and actually asked the higher self of the mother if they could leave. And so that mother basically opens her womb space again so that they leave back through her, which then doesn't create issues. In the ones that I've read, this is not a blanket statement. I'm not inviting suicide in, just to be clear, right? So the point of this is I said, this feels like I did not know like that the body or the heart, like that the human being could experience this much pain. And I was like, it feels like I've lost a child like ×5. Is that right? And they were like, yes, right. And I was like, it like hurts. Like, I don't even know. And I'm not even a person that complains like about much of anything. And the whole point of that is so that I can be here and not be afraid to be in a place of massive suffering, right? And I've had experiences prior to this where I was in developing countries, like in a hospital, taking care of someone, and like literally people were grabbing at my legs, and I remember being like, why am I only an artist? I should be a doctor. I could be doing so many better things right now. What am I doing? Right? I was like in the Peace Corps in this crazy situation. It was like an emergency, but like an ER in a developing country is not like, I just wanted to do something, right? So if I were in that situation now, it's not like I did anything wrong before, but that was me learning something, right? Like, I gotta hold space and not feel every dying person in here, right? So a lot of, for the dark night, it's like you're gonna be being trained for something. And for me, it's like my heart now, it's all cracked and busted, and that's where the light shines through, right? And that's the whole point. And then it's like I have this endurance and this capability to be around that much more suffering, right? It's like the bodhisattvas. It's like I'm sorry, Kuan Yin. It's like she can hear the cries of everybody in the world and hold compassion, but she's not falling apart.
Right.
You know, and so and that's a really hard, how do I feel through these beings, humans, whatever, beyond my own judgments and perceptions, and feel the divine through them and love them and also see them as me and that there is no separation? And how do I feel the pain and suffering of another while also not breaking down? And it's much easier to do in a session with someone. You can still kind of like cry with them a little bit, but there can still be resistance, or the beings are kind of like holding the space, so that energy is running through you so that you still stay open. But this is like you become the beings and then you hold the space. And so just if anybody's going through this, like, it's gonna be okay. There is a purpose, and
It's going to be okay.
Yeah, and it's not permanent.
It's not permanent, and there's light in the tunnel. There's light. There is light. Definitely,
Yeah,
you are working through it. There is light. Thank you, Ashley. And it's time to close. So thank you everyone for being here. We had one more comment. Let's see, for Christine Marie Heals. I was taking my clients on a journey last night, channeled this download. You may not know consciously where you are going, but your soul always does. So yeah, totally. So confirming, or what beautiful. Thank you, Ashley. Always a pleasure. And I can't wait to talk with you again on my channel.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I love that I got to meet Michele, because I feel like I've heard a lot about you. The Awakener. That's name. I love it.
It could go either way. Thank you for being with us, Ashley. I love all that you say. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to meet you. And I'm sure we'll be seeing each other again.
Yes. Yeah. And we hope that we helped in some way. If anyone's watched, when, all of you that are watching, or anyone that's watching, even just one person, we hope that we helped you. That's enough. So again, as Michele said, please subscribe, comment, share. If you enjoyed the video, like it. Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Love it. Yeah. I wish they had a love button. Okay. A heart. And signing off. Thank you, everyone. Mwah. See you next time.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.